You are Locked On Clippers POSTCAST, part of Locked On Los Angeles on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Well. How about that? Music for a dominant Clippers win. 127-107 in Toronto over the Raptors. They barely broke a sweat on this one. I am Pete Fox. Thank you for joining us here on the Locked On Clippers postcast. Thank you for watching us on Locked On Sports LA, the YouTube channel, and listening on the Locked On Clippers podcast feed. I'm Pete Fox, been covering sports in LA with ESPN Radio dating back to 2007. Also worked for NBC Sports Radio. Covered the Clippers frequently during that period of time. All right, I'm done with the music. A little too dancey, a little too poppy for me. It was fun. Fun to try something new. The Clippers in this one were sharing the ball as they have been lately. And thanks in large part to James Harden and Russel Westbrook in this one. James Harden, a triple-double. Almost had it in the first quarter. What did he have in the first quarter? He had 17, 3, and 8. Not in the first quarter, the first half, rather. He finished the night with 22 points, 13 assists, and 10 boards. He was fantastic, playing with a little bit more energy than normal from James Harden, penetrating a lot. He was doing the main three things you want a basketball player to do. I guess you could throw in 4, and that would be not turning the ball over. But he was shooting the ball well from beyond the arc. He was penetrating and scoring, and he was facilitating, passing the ball very efficiently. Those three, he did everything almost perfectly tonight. Made very few mistakes. He had just 1 turnover. He looked fantastic. It was effortless. And, you know, had that jovial smile on his face, giggling and laughing, just having a good time. And then Westbrook off the bench in 26 minutes, 7 of 14 from the floor, 20 points, 5 rebounds, didn't make a 3 tonight, but had 3 assists, again, bringing lots of energy. And he was doing a lot of penetrating as well. Just scoring from the paint. And in the recent past, I've criticized him very slightly for, you know, being a little too aggressive, a little over the top. Unleashed, I think was a term that was used to describe him tonight by Brian Seaman. But he plays like a 22-year-old. He's considerably older than that. What is he, 36 now or something? But sometimes his energy just gets the best of him and he misses easy layups. Not tonight. He was stealing the ball. He was passing it very well, scoring mostly in the paint. As I said, didn't have any threes. He took a couple, but didn't make any of them. But those two guys together, I guess one of the highlights of the night, which we'll get into next segment in a revised, updated version of the bucket list, where we have now a top 5. I'm not going to go through every interesting bucket because it sometimes gets into the weeds and I don't want you guys to fall asleep on me. So we're going to do the top 5 buckets of the night for the Clippers, and which might be, 6, 7, or 8 in that neighborhood. But all in all, there was some highlights for Harden and Westbrook, where Harden was feeding Westbrook, and they reminisced back to the old days in Oklahoma City when Harden would feed Westbrook. So if there was ever an issue of these two guys not playing well together, not getting along, it was very minimally in the very beginning, and it is now gone and over, and they're harmonious and enjoying each other's company. And that was fun to see, because Harden was feeding a lot of people tonight with layups and alley-oops, and there was just so much going on from James Harden that, when James Harden's going off, you look and you think, well, what are the other guys doing? What's Paul George doing? What's Kawhi Leonard doing? Well, they were scoring as well. They were taking care of business. So this was a game where the Clippers I think the closest it got was after the first 2 buckets, which were scored by the Raptors to make it 4-0. The Clippers never trailed again. They pulled away and dominated throughout. All in all, it was a comfortable, easy win. The goal I heard coming out of halftime was to keep the starters under 28 minutes. Let's see if they did that. Paul George played 28, Kawhi 31. Didn't see him much in the fourth quarter at all. Mason Plumlee was 25 minutes, James Harden 35 minutes, and that was probably on his decision. And then Terrence Mann, who played a lot late, played 29 minutes. So a very efficient night, relatively light work on a back-to-back as they play the Boston Celtics tomorrow in Boston. This is the first game of the 7-game roadie for the Grammy. So the Grammy road trip underway, a comfortable 20-point win for the Clippers. At no point in time was this one ever really in doubt where you thought like, uh-oh, they're letting their foot off the gas. Coming into the third quarter, it really felt a lot like, how can we win this game and conserve energy for tomorrow for a big game against the Boston Celtics is really kind of what it felt like. Brian Seaman described it at times in the second half as being very sloppy. I get what he's seeing. I don't necessarily agree that it's sloppy. I think it's just lackadaisical, which is a form of sloppiness, I guess. It didn't feel like the Clippers were really trying to be tight and being sloppy. It felt like they were just, all right, we're not going to lose this game. We have too much. The Toronto Raptors have too little. They just can't keep up with us, right? No matter what we do. If we really need to, we'll put our foot on the gas and end this thing. And again, in the fourth quarter, I think the closest they got was 10. I don't think it ever got down to single digits. So it was hard as I was going from 5 to 1, putting together my top 5 buckets of the night on the bucket list. It's hard to find like a dagger of a bucket because the Clippers were up cruising so much in the fourth quarter there. They didn't really have any opportunity to feel the threat. So at the end of the first quarter, they led by 9. Another thing about this game I really liked, they went on multiple runs. So they had a 15-0 run in the first quarter. Again, they finished that quarter up 9, 29-20. Then at the end of the second quarter into the break, they were up 66-52, a 9-0 run at the 3-minute mark of the second quarter, then a 7-0 run in the third. And in the fourth quarter, there wasn't too many runs. They did get the lead up to 21 at one point, but the Raptors kept playing. They never went away, to their credit. They're going through a tough stretch right now with a bunch of young players. They are 1-8 over their last 9. Clippers just were too much for them to handle, as they are for a lot of teams. So I don't fault the Raptors for, not giving it their all or getting pushed around. The Clippers are just too much. 21-4 now, dating back to that infamous day of December 1st when things really turned around for them. So we will take a break right now, come back and get into the bucket lists, which we're going to do a little differently tonight. The top 5 or so buckets of the night. Thank you for joining me here on the Clipper Postcast on the Locked On Clippers Podcast Network. And thank you for watching on the Locked On Sports LA YouTube channel. All right, we're going to start off here talking about Grammarly, something I'm a big fan of. If you know me at all, you know I'm a grammar snob. I've done my best to try to, save it at times when people say things like, drive home safe. It's drive home safely. Things like that. It's just annoying things. We get what you're trying to say, but it's safely, not safe. Anyway, when it comes to writing, Grammarly is there to support you in so many ways from start to finish. Over 10 years now, Grammarly has been powered by AI technology. You can trust them to help you across all the places where you write the most. And now Grammarly helps you do it even more. With just one click, you can easily brainstorm, rewrite, reply, suggestions based on the context of your goals and so forth. So you can improve productivity for you and for your team. In the past, when I've had to write things, primarily short things like commercials, 60 seconds, nothing terribly long. I'm not writing manuscripts. I've had a tough time getting started, and this is the kind of thing that Grammarly helps you with. One time I worked with a guy who said, well, you have a lock when it comes to writing, and this was many years ago, long before Grammarly existed. He said, just start writing. Just start putting words on paper. That's a good suggestion, and it's very helpful, but Grammarly makes that step much easier. No need to polish. It'll help you with that. It helps you use the right words. It helps you say things, paraphrase, rewrite to be more concise instantly. Example, simply select the text you want to rewrite, and Grammarly will give you a prompt, give you some options to select from. It'll improve it, shorten it, which is a big thing. A lot of times people are just way too wordy. I am guilty of that quite frequently, and my wife, the former English teacher, will criticize me for that. I definitely use things like or need help with things like shortening long phrases, paragraphs, etc. If you need to draft an important email, don't know where to start, Grammarly has suggestions to jumpstart your writing. The best part is it's all free to use. Start being more productive with Grammarly at work. Go to grammarly.com/podcast to download it free today. That's Grammarly, GRAMMARLY.com/podcast. All right, Clippers with a 127-107 win, game one of a 7-game roadie for the Grammys, which is going to be a long haul. Doesn't really sound like that much. I don't 7 games. They were talking about it on the broadcast tonight. Mike Fratello said at one point with one of his teams, I think it was back when he was coaching the Hawks, they were on an 11-game roadie. That's a whole different level of gnarly, but this is, the better part of 2 weeks. So it's good to get off to a nice win, get off to a nice start, comfortable, nobody really working all that hard. It's, improves your confidence, especially on the front end of a back-to-back going into Boston to face a very good, very red-hot Celtics team. You have to feel confident about that. So this will be another real test for them tomorrow on the road. Tonight, it was all about James Harden and Russell Westbrook. Honorable mention for great play tonight to Kawhi Leonard and Paul George. Paul George got off to a bit of a slow start, ended up scoring 21, but that's kind of been his MO lately. Slow start, like in the first quarter, you're looking around. Is he even on the floor? Has he scored yet? And a lot of times it'll be, halfway through the first quarter before he even scores. And again, Westbrook and Harden did most of their work in the first half. Westbrook had 12 points. Harden had 17 with 3 rebounds and 8 assists. But the problem were there were 2 things, I guess you could say, about this game for the Clippers that weren't great in the first half. And they are the best team in the league shooting from beyond the arc. Let's not forget that. They were 4 of 16 from beyond the arc. They got it going in the second half and finished a little better. Not much. 9 of 32 for 28%. For the best team in the league, we've talked about it night after night that they hover around 50% making threes. So tonight, that was not the case, but they were great from the free throw line, only missing 2 shots, shooting 91%. And from the floor, also another very productive night. As I said, Harden and Westbrook scored a lot of their points in the paint tonight. 50% from the floor, 48 of 95. So that is something to feel good about with this Clippers team as they continue to shoot the ball well with a myriad of weapons. They just are never lacking the weapons. Tonight, it was a little bit more about the other guys, besides the starters. Coffee had a big night. Norm Powell had a big night. And Daniel Tice was very good as the backup big man. Mason Plumlee, who had an offer when they played on Tuesday against the Lakers, played 25 minutes tonight with 6 of 12 for 12 points, did not go to the free throw line, but had 12 big rebounds. So a really, really nice performance for Mason Plumlee. As a matter of fact, I saw a story today somewhere, some random website, trying to get people to click on their story, that said the headline was, and of course I fell for it, it said the one trade the Clippers need to make a championship run. And I was like, what? They don't need to make any changes. This team is locked. This team is fine. And I opened it up, and they were basically speculating that the Clippers need to move Mason Plumlee to create more depth under the basket. I'm like, they have an embarrassment of riches under the basket. Mason Plumlee, Daniel Tice, and Ivica Zubac, who's still dealing with that calf injury, is going to be out for another couple of weeks. So he's been playing fantastic when he's healthy. And now that Mason Plumlee is back being healthy, he is a great sub, and Daniel Tice off the bench subs great for both of those guys. So I don't know what that person's talking about. I think they're a little misinformed. It might have been an AI. It might not even been a real person. I've noticed this recently too, and I don't like it at all, is that various sport websites who will remain nameless are using AI to write stories. So it's not even human beings anymore. A lot of times it's just the preview of the game. So they're like, all right, it's the Clippers and the Raptors. Here are their records. Here are their shooting percentages, just numbers. But I'm like, that's not what we're looking for here. AI writing stories about a sporting event. We'll just take all the numbers and put in a bunch of adjectives and verbs, and there's your story. No, I'm not going for that. That is not okay. We need some context. That's why I'm here. So, if you're in agreement with that philosophy, that's not enough, then just check us out here after every Clipper game right here on YouTube. And of course, you can download it on the Clippers podcast feed. We'll take another break and come back and wrap it up with our final segment where we get into superlatives, another interesting one tonight. All right, now it is time to talk about eBay Motors. Whammo. All right, let's try this. Let's get a little crazy again. That's good eBay music right there. Our partners at eBay Motors have teamed up with Locked On Fantasy Basketball host Josh Lloyd, bringing some of the best fantasy picks each week all season long from the NBA. Whether you're prepping for the daily draft or scouting the waiver wire, every week we're going to provide you players that are guaranteed to fit on your roster. So let's see who Josh picked up for us this week on eBay's Guaranteed Fit Fantasy Picks of the Week. The suggestion from Josh: Brandon Miller as a fantasy NBA pick. Miller should be seeing a big uptick in usage. Terry Rozier being shipped out, and that makes him a must roster player in fantasy. Josh Lloyd from Locked On Fantasy Basketball is going to help you win your fantasy championship, and eBay Motors knows a championship team is about each player being a perfect fit. Some or the same goes for your vehicle. I personally have used eBay Motors frequently to buy parts, many parts, because at some point not too long ago, I decided that paying hundreds and hundreds of dollars to change your brakes, which is super easy, was just not worth it. So I frequently have purchased brakes and rotors on eBay Motors, and the great thing about it is they're always the right fit, and even better, it's almost always a discount on buying from an auto parts store. Almost always it's going to be cheaper if you buy your parts on eBay Motors. The other thing that's great about eBay Motors, a lot of times hard to find some of these unique parts, and they have them more often than not. So with over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you can make sure your ride stays running smoothly. Brake kits, LED headlights, purchased those before. Roof racks, purchased those before. Bumpers, whatever your baby needs, eBay Motors has it. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, guaranteed you fit your ride the first time, every time, or your money back. Plus, at these prices, you're burning rubber, not cash. So keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. eBay Guaranteed Fit, only available in U.S., only available to U.S. customers. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. Check them out, eBay Motors. It is definitely going to save you some money. I'm going to get rid of this. Hold on. There you go. Bye-bye. All right. Segment 3 now. Clippers postcast here on the Locked On Sports LA YouTube channel and on the Locked On Clippers podcast feed after the Clippers cruised to victory north of the border in Toronto, 127-107. Kawhi Leonard returning to the town where he won them their only championship and has dominated the Raptors playing for other teams. He now is 15-3 as a member of the Raptors opposition. So when he is playing against the Raptors in Toronto, Kawhi Leonard dominates. A good night tonight. In 31 minutes, he had 16 points, 7 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 block shots, and 1 steal. So he did a little bit of everything. And one of the things about Kawhi's performance tonight that you really had to like was he was also the Clippers. Since this is another thing that makes me confident that this team is very versatile, very pliable. They were not shooting the ball well from beyond the arc. Their 3-point percentage was below 30%, which is not their norm. They're normally around 50. So they just decided, all right, well, we'll just abandon that and we'll start penetrating the paint. And they did that, shooting 50% from the floor and scoring a lot of buckets down low, in the post. Layups, penetrations, various ways of getting to the rack. Russel Westbrook in the fourth quarter, 2 or 3 times, just came, dribbled the ball across center court, got to the top of the key and just wouldn't slow down. Just penetrated right to the rack. Get out of my way. Here I come. And it worked 3 or 4 times, made easy layups. So I like that about the way this game went for them. A comfortable win, didn't really need to break a sweat. And, quite frequently we see that from them, especially lately. I can't remember the last time in a win where I felt like the fourth quarter was in doubt, where they were cruising and then they took their foot off the gas and they started to fumble it away a little bit. Again, Brian Seaman commented that Coach Fratello agreed with him to a certain extent. So who am I to argue? But they said they felt like the fourth quarter was a little sloppy. Okay, maybe. Only because they didn't need to be tight and they didn't need to be clean. And the other negative that I saw and felt was something that I'm sure Ty Lue was not happy with. And they talked about practice yesterday because they were in Toronto. They've been in Toronto since Wednesday. And yesterday they practiced and they worked on tightening things up, just kind of smoothing out the rough edges. And tonight, the one thing I could say from a defensive perspective for this team was there were too many second chance opportunities for the Raptors, not getting the rebounds and the Raptors turning those opportunities into buckets. And it was mentioned that a few times during this game, again, I don't think it was an issue, but they did feel like there was too many points off of transition defense. So the Raptors are a good team when it comes to running and gunning. That's the one thing they do well. So again, Clippers comfortably up throughout the night. I don't know that they needed to work too hard on transition defense, but I'm sure Ty Lue will bring it up and make them aware that they could be better. Okay, we're fine with that, right? We're okay with that because you can't really walk away from this game and say, well, that was perfect. You didn't do anything wrong. You guys just dominated. You cruised. You kicked their butt and on to Boston. So I'm sure he's going to, try to point out some negative thoughts, some things that they can improve on so they don't get lackadaisical and they don't go into Boston, too confident. So tomorrow's going to be good. We're going to be excited to see what happens there. Let's get into superlatives tonight. The best 3 players or 4 in this particular situation from this game for me. Oh, wait. I completely forgot bucket list in the last segment. So we'll do superlatives and then we'll do bucket list. My new bucket list completely slipped my mind. What a bonehead. All right. Superlatives tonight. Actually, it's just 2 players because I used one player twice because he was so fantastic. And that being James Harden. My first superlative tonight, best friends. Harden and Westbrook played really well together tonight, and they played really well separately. So the best friends of the night, because of one fantastic alley-oop from Harden to Westbrook, are James Harden and Russell Westbrook, who had great games, both of them, together and separately. Again, Harden finishing with 22, his 75th career triple-double, and Westbrook off the bench in 26 minutes had 20 points. The most likely to succeed, and by that, I mean, not in the future, just every time he plays. I think the guy that is the most consistent player on this team night after night. So meaning the most likely to succeed when he's in the game and have something productive that will allow us to talk about him is Kawhi Leonard. Generally, most likely to succeed is for a younger person who hasn't accomplished anything yet, and you think that they will at some point. It's like when you talk about someone with potential. You know what someone with potential has? They have no experience. They haven't done it yet. So Kawhi Leonard is not a guy with potential. He has done it. He has 2 championships and 2 MVPs from the championship. So from the finals. So tonight and every night on a regular basis, Kawhi Leonard most likely to succeed, finishing with 16 points, 7 boards, 2 block shots, and 1 steal. just always, he's like a security blanket. You just feel so good when he's on the floor and when he's got the ball. And lastly, the best dressed of the night, James Harden, who was doing everything and playing just tighter. He also looked very good with his pink shoes. I'm probably a bigger fan of James Harden's shoes than any other part of him. Well, no, his passing is just really, I have a man crush on his ability to pass the ball because he makes it look so easy. It just, it doesn't hurt that the guy he's passing to, whether it's Kawhi Leonard or Paul George or Russel Westbrook or whomever, Norman Powell, have very, very high ability to score the ball. But he is just a fantastic passer. So he looks good. His play is always just so cool and confident. Tonight, the best dressed was James Harden with his pink shoes and his triple-double. Again, the triple-double was 22 points, 13 assists, and 10 boards. All right, we have about 4 minutes, so we're going to slide back into the bucket list, which I just completely brain farted on in the second segment. I was just, I don't know, too excited and rolling talking about this game. But tonight, the new version, the new and updated, new and improved bucket list, rather than every interesting bucket, we're doing the top 5. So the fifth best bucket of the night, coming in the first quarter from Mason Plumlee, it was a sweet reverse dunk that he got a pass from Kawhi Leonard, and he looked like he was a 6'2" forward, not a big man. Flew under the basket, reverse dunked it, was part of a 13-0 run for the Clippers. Just a fantastic highlight reel bucket. So our fifth bucket of the night on the bucket list, Mason Plumlee. Number 4 was Norman Powell. He had a 3 at the 9:40 mark of the second quarter to make it 40-28, put the Clippers up 12, and it came right after an alley-oop from the Raptors, which was a highlight reel alley-oop, very exciting. And you thought maybe at that point the Raptors could take some energy and momentum from that and go on a little bit of a run. So it was a silencing 3 from Norman Powell for number 4 at the 9-minute and 40-second mark to make it 40-28. Number 3, Harden to Russ, that alley-oop I was talking about. This was at the 9:16, so it came pretty quick after the Powell 3. To make it 42-32, and it was just fantastic and fun. The number 2 bucket of the night was James Harden dribble drive at the 7:18 mark of the third quarter. That made it 79-63, and honorable mention for number 2 would be Kawhi Leonard's first 3 of the night, a corner 3. And, anytime Kawhi's in the corner at Scotiabank, we think back to that conference final bucket that he made that we'll never forget. But it was such a clean 3 that the net barely moved. Usually, like, at least with a swish, the net will like rip a little bit and flip up. This net didn't move. You almost thought he airballed it, but it was such a sweet 3. So that's the number 2 bucket of the night, a Harden dribble drive floater, and the honorable mention to Kawhi Leonard 3 from the corner. And the number 1 bucket of the night, the dagger of sorts, even though it was a double-digit lead at that point, was a big 3 from Norm Powell under 2 minutes in the fourth quarter, which was immediately followed by a thunder dunk to make it 123-107. Again, they go on to win a game 127-107. So there you go. The new and improved bucket list. Got to be honest, I like that. Felt a little bit more comfortable than trying to jam 37 interesting buckets down your throat. Although it is a little bit harder for me to pick just 5 out of a Clippers game because there are so many interesting buckets, but sharing it with you in that fashion is a little bit easier. So there you go. There's our new and improved bucket list. And that's going to do it for us tonight. Clippers win at 127-107, improved to 29-14, back to 500 on the road at 10-10. And they're now 21-4 since December 1st, the best record in the NBA. And don't forget, right back at it tomorrow in Boston against the Celtics. Early start, 4:30 Pacific, 7:30 Eastern, and we'll be on right here on the Locked On Sports LA YouTube channel and the Locked On Clippers podcast feed to wrap it up. So thank you for joining us. Have a good night. We'll catch you tomorrow.